On this day, I show up to the lake and it's pretty windy. So you can see there's plenty of whitecaps, and I think on this day the max winds were just under 30 knots. So, luckily I've equipped my boat to sail in heavier weather, so I am undeterred and decide to go out. So I start, of course, doing some prep on the boat. So first of all, you can see the red sail, so that's an 80% or number 4 jib. So the number 3 and number 4 jibs are considered heavy weather sails, and the number 4 is one size larger than a storm jib. And then you can all see that red little pouch on the cockpit bench there. That is actually a self-inflating lifeboat. So they don't make them anymore, but they're pretty cool. It's called a nebulous, and it's like a little one-man self-inflating lifeboat. So I go forward and untangle the halyards. And just, checking everything, making sure everything's ready to go. So I go ahead and rig up a jack line, basically. So it's just tied from the mast, wrapped around the bottom of the mast, and then down to my cam cleat for the centerboard line. And if you saw my video on how I installed that, it has a really stout backing plate that's epoxied and then also machine screwed into the fiberglass, so it's a pretty strong point of the boat. I also have a life vest with a harness. I don't use it a whole lot, but of course in conditions like this it's a good idea. And then I also have a personal tether that I can hook into that jack line and into other parts of the boat. So next I tighten the backstay. So I have a backstay tensioner, backstay adjuster. So I go ahead and set that to the max tension so I can get some bend in the mast and flatten the top third of the mainsail. I go ahead and put in the companionway cover and the top hatch. So I'll sail with those closed, and that avoids, if there's a capsize, that avoids water going into the cabin and flooding the boat if it gets laid on her side. Alright, so then I'm ready to untie the boat. So I untie the bow line first, and the wind right now is coming from basically the rear, the aft port quarter, so from the port side and from the stern, and so it's blowing the boat both away from the dock but also forward into the dock. So I've got the outboard running to just kind of hold it stationary, and then I hop in and start motoring away. So on this boat, because the outboard is mounted on the port side, it's very difficult to turn the boat to port when the wind is blowing on the beam. And of course the shore is on the starboard side, so I can't turn to starboard because I'll get in very shallow water and hit the rudder. So I just reverse it all the way out until I have some space to go ahead and make that turn to the port. So I make my turn to port and start motoring out of the Marina Cove into the main lake. And of course I have to stow my fenders, so I've just I've tied off the tiller, and I just start motoring out of the cove toward the main lake while I'm stowing my fenders. Go ahead and start my water speed app so I can track my speed and my tracks and all that kind of stuff. Go ahead and clip in my tether, and then I'm just checking my halyards to make sure none of my lines are tangled up into my spreaders or into my shrouds. So I go ahead and start removing my sail ties, getting ready to raise the mainsail. And I have a place for everything, so I tidy those up, and they actually hang just inside the companionway. So I go ahead and stow those. So I go ahead and slack the vang so I can raise the mainsail. Here I'm fully lowering the centerboard. Alright, so I'm heading to the wind, and of course I've already preset with my double reef, so when I raise the mainsail it's already double reefed. So I really want to put those halyards on tight. And then go ahead and do a turn to starboard and set the mainsail way out. And then raise the outboard. And so right now the boat is basically sailing itself. The tiller, you can see, is just tied off, and it's on a beam reach and pretty stable. So I go ahead and go forward, and I have a sail tie around the head sail. So I've got to take out the sail tie, but then I noticed that my halyards are a little tangled, so I got to get those out of the shrouds. They're just wrapped around them. So I get that untangled, go ahead and remove that sail tie, and then I'm ready to raise the jib. And you know, at this point the boat is just sailing itself. You know, it's basically not being piloted, and again, it's pretty stable in these conditions. Kind of amazing. So make my way back into the cockpit and raise the head sail. And again, I want to get that halyard really, really tight. And then I pull in the jib sheet. And of course, with this kind of wind, the sheets are all tangled up. So now I've got to go deal with that. So I go unwrap the lazy sheet from around the working sheet right now. And so I've developed a little bit of weather helm, so I put the mainsail out a little bit and then go forward and unwrap that sheet and then pull the lazy sheet a little tighter just so that it doesn't get wrapped up again. Okay, so at this point, I'm just kind of double checking everything, seeing how the boat feels and the conditions. Trying to think if there's anything else that I forgot to do. Go ahead and tighten down the vang. And I decided to raise the centerboard a little bit, which will reduce the weather helm. And of course, you're going to get more leeway with the centerboard up, but at this point I'm in the middle of the lake, and I'm not really trying to get anywhere in particular. So it's nice to have the centerboard up a little bit and have a more balanced helm. It also reduces the heel just slightly. So then I organize my halyards a little bit, try and clean up all the mess that's down there in the cockpit, and I'm ready to sail. So I start pulling in the mainsail, tightening up the head sail, and start heading up more into the wind. And again, I'm just trying to get a feel for it, see how the boat responds. And that 80% jib, the number 4 jib, is really, really nice with a double reefed main. It's a nice pairing that keeps the boat nice and balanced. If the boat was still overpowered with the 80% jib, then I could take it down and sail mainsail, double reefed mainsail only, and continue on like that. But right now, it's fine with the 80% jib. So now I've got the jib fully tightened, and I'm just trying to figure out exactly how much I can pinch. I'm pinching a little bit too much there. And so I bear away and go ahead and grab the main sheet, just have it in my hand. So we'll leave it there for this episode, and this will be continued next week.